Thank you all so much for joining us on Busch Hall. As you know, Busch Hall examines surprisingly stubborn narratives around issues of nation, race, and identity in German art through the lens of the Busch-Reisinger Museum. And our monthly conversations here on Insta TV are generously funded by the German Friends of the Busch-Reisinger Museum. And I am very pleased to welcome our second guest speaker in this series, Kevina King. Kevina is a Ph.D. student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst and the curator of the DEFA Film Library Film Festival Black Lives in Germany, which since last fall has been offering viewers a look at the diversity of the Black diaspora and contemporary Germany through film viewings and conversations with filmmakers and scholars. And I do hope that many of you who follow Busch Hall have also seen our announcements of the film festival, which will have its last film of the series, I believe, Kevina, on April 8th.
That's correct.
So look out for the announcement for that, and join Kevina and her colleagues and guests on Zoom for that fantastic event. In addition to her work at DEFA, Kevina is working on her dissertation entitled Black German Resistance in the 21st Century, which examines Black German radical expressions via digital media, including music, videos, and podcasts. So please join me in welcoming Kevina to Busch Hall.
And hello, everyone. Thank you for having me.
We're so glad that you could join us, Kevina. And I'm just going to ask you a few questions. Our topic today is Black Germany. So that is a huge topic. And I'm very grateful to you for kicking us off and thinking about it on Busch Hall. And before we actually discuss the DEFA film series, which has been so fantastic, maybe you could just tell us a little bit more about your work on Germany as a space of creative forms of resistance.
Yeah, again, thank you for having me. I think it's such an important topic, and I'm glad to see that more scholars of German studies are now interested in decolonializing and diversifying the German studies curriculum. I think to understand Germany's racisms, one really has to engage with Black history in Germany and how it has offered sites of resistance since at least Anton Wilhelm Amo in the 1700s, but also in various configurations from then until now. So many ways, and what I'd like to focus on is the 21st century, where Black German thought and strategy sharing of how to build community, how to resist the institutional and everyday racisms, and the way that Black people in Germany do that with their Black fiction writing, and hip hop also is a huge component of this. And podcasting, it just all sort of is intertwined, and I find it really, really interesting.
I think that what was so intriguing about your work is that it's not related to a single media, and that you're drawing from so many different creative spheres. So it leads me to my next question, which is how you actually got involved in the work.
Yeah, that's a long story, and I'm gonna try to keep it short, but I found myself in undergrad during the time of the recession, and tried to avoid graduating into a recession, and thought I should be in school longer.
Smart.
So, it was in one of my last psychology classes where one of my classmates, a Black woman, was sitting next to me. And I remember the psychology professor saying something about the final exams. And it was either her or I that said, Scheiße. And we looked at each other in, in this like incredulous way. Wait, do you know what you just said? Do you know what you just said? And, it was just really that beautiful moment of relief when you find recognition in another Black person that's connected, speaks to Germany, is from Germany in all these different ways.
So,
Yeah,
Kevina, I'm going to interrupt you for those of our listeners who do not speak German. If you didn't catch it, the word was Scheiße, which means shit.
that's correct. So, yeah, and she told me about the German Studies program that was at UNLV, University of Nevada, Las Vegas. And that I don't have to take German classes. I could also take German literature classes and film classes. And I was born and raised in Germany, but I left when I was 16. So I felt that there was a gap in my life, in my education, and I was happy to fill all the various gaps. And I really enjoyed German studies in that way. And when I then once stood before the decision, okay, what do I do with all of this? I spoke to one of my professors and asked, so what's up with this graduate school thing, and how can one become a professor? And that's when Professor Villanueva back then told me about Jamel Watkins, the fabulous Jamel Watkins, who was a former student at UNLV and one of his former students, and was now studying Black German topics with Sarah Lennox at UMass Amherst. And I was who and where and what. And when I got in touch with her, it was really that moment because she recommended some literature for me, and I had questions about, how different is Amherst from Las Vegas, and well, let's not talk about all of that, right? But also, I think back then I wasn't even quite sure what really to ask to prepare for grad school, but Jamel was just so gracious to sort of push over these, books, read this. And this is really when I, for the first time, read Farbe bekennen, or in English, Showing Our Colors. And when I learned that there was a thing called Black German Studies, that there was a Black philosopher in the 1700s, that the Black German movement existed. That's when I learned about DEFA and the ISD, and just Audre Lorde and how it all started. And it was really that eye-opening moment, and also like that connection with someone in the department that I felt I could, safely ask these questions to another Black scholar. And that's really how it all started. I then read the book by Ika Hügelmarsche, Daheim unterwegs, Invisible Woman. And that's where I learned more about the post-war generation, that some Black people in Germany were in orphanages after the war, that some were adopted and lived with African-American families here in the United States. So it just really opened up a moment, and it was so much excitement, but also a bit of a disappointment that I didn't learn any of this information while I was in Berlin. When I went to school there, it was just not part of anything that I ever saw. So it was, yeah. And the rest is sort of history. That's how it all started.
It reminds me too, as a Germanist, that I and the study of Black Germany has been around for decades. And as a Germanist, I didn't read any of that as an undergraduate either. And then as an art historian, that was just sort of not a part of what the reading in the field was at the time. And so I think it's so exciting to see emerging scholars like yourself, but also to be reminded of how long actually this work has been going on. And I think that's why it was wonderful to be able to have you come on to Busch Hall and share a little bit of your own sort of personal history, how you got there, and sort of will, of course, make us very, very eager to follow everything that you continue to do. While I have you here, I would really love to hear what you think about the terminology around race and ethnicity in Germany. So when you do sort of dig into to the scholarship, you come across all kinds of terms: Afro-Deutsch, Black Germany, Schwarze Deutsche, Germans with a migration background. And I would love to hear your thoughts on that terminology and where you sort of situate that discussion today.
Well, I think there's history behind all of those terms, and Afro-Deutsch, Schwarze Deutsche, and then translation Afro-German, Black Germans. Those were terms that came out of the Black German women's movement in the 80s and were popularized because of that movement, and it's all about self-definition. So I know Black people in Germany who don't use any of the terms that you just mentioned, right? And all of that is absolutely fine. It's all about self-definition. Yeah.
So you work at the DEFA Film Archive at Amherst. So how did the film festival that you've been doing this year, how did that come into being?
Yeah, this last year was just, so difficult for all of us, and especially the last summer. And it really grew out of conversations that the DEFA Film Library team had during that time after George Floyd was murdered. And the international protests that were happening, also in Germany, and for the Black community in Germany, it was really important to point out that, while people are, of course, protesting in solidarity, you heard lots of voices that, really argued for the fact that, yes, we are protesting in solidarity, but police violence, racial profiling, and sanctioned force and anti-Blackness is rampant in Germany as well. And these are things that need to be discussed in the media, right? So yeah, it was just all of that, and I think it was also my general frustration with some of the performative actions. You saw lots of statements in support of the Black Lives Matter movement, but not much after that. And it was really important to us that we do more than that. So the idea of putting on a virtual film festival, the DEFA Film Library has put on lots of film festivals,
Yes.
So it's quite a strong machine when it comes to that, but doing it all virtually amidst the pandemic, within the grief of all the death. It was challenging, but I'm so glad how much enthusiasm I received from the team, and how helpful It was a lot of work, so much work, and it was really nice to be able to concentrate on the fun part. So I really appreciate that the team took over some of the parts that were really tedious and technical and perhaps not as much fun. And to me, it was just really important to center Black voices, to position them as experts of their experience. And it was really important to me to, show that Black Germany is not a homogenous group, that there are various different types of experiences, and I hope that we, captured just a little bit, just a snippet of that. That'd be nice.
I mean, from my perspective, I think you definitely have. I remember seeing the first announcement and thinking actually, how fantastic. That's why I wasn't sure, did it actually come? I apologize, Kevina. That I remember seeing the announcement and wondering, wow, was this something that had been planned, or was this actually coming out of the galvanizing protests of the Black Lives Matter movement in the summer? And to see that DEFA was able to get that up and running and have those discussions really was incredibly exciting, and I think so important. And I know that not just the chance to see the films, but have those conversations with the filmmakers. I for one have learned so much from it, and hope maybe it could be something that could continue going forward. I know there are many great and important themes to address through the DEFA film collections. But my question, I guess, because I am an art historian and a curator of a art museum, and Black German studies is an interdisciplinary field, but it does seem, as I sort of implied before, that it has had considerably less impact on art history than in other fields like film and media studies and literature. And so I just thought I'd put it to you and say, why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I'm not 100% sure that I'm all that qualified to speak to art history, but what I've learned just in this first time of curating a film festival, I've never done that before. Film studies is also not my specialty. But what I did know, I wanted to tell a story with the way, with the films that we showed and when, and the arrangements of the moderators with the special guests. So, for example, I'm so happy that our last event in the series on April 8th, make sure you register, will allow Dr. Jamel Watkins to have the last word as our moderator, not only because it's like such a, for me personally, like a full circle moment, or come to full circle. It's also, her scholarship complements the event so well. She's working on a new book project on East Germany and the Solidarity Movement with Angela Davis. But also, also her dissertation was on Black theater and performance, and she has studied the work of Lara Sophie Milagro, who will be one of our special guests, together with Lauren Cox. And, again, both of them do this in such a creative way. So like, to me, it's part of the storytelling a bit too, and why, the first event then had Ika Hügelmarsche and Dagmar Schulz and Sarah Lennox talk, because for me, that was like a part of my beginning, right? So I wanted to end it with Jamel, because she's she's fought battles that I then didn't have to.
Hmm.
And I'm really grateful to her. So why don't art historians include these stories? I'm not sure. My guess is it's a pretty wide field, isn't it? But you can tell me more about this for sure.
I think it definitely is, although it is changing, and there has been some important work done most recently um, in the journal Art History by Dorothy Rowe on, kind of actually asking the question, why don't we sort of see this more in art history? So, my hope is that through these kinds of conversations, right? I always say, to try and actually learn from other disciplines that are so much further along in probing these issues and so importantly as well. And I spent a month at the DEFA film archive as part of the sort of NEH Institute on East Germany, and saw there as well that in East German studies, obviously art historians have been making great strides there as well, but often it was looking to film and to other disciplines that really was extremely important for art historians too. So we have a lot to learn and a lot of work to do. And as I said to Kevina, I think what we will do on Busch Hall is maybe highlight some of this important literature in the field of Black German studies, so that we can also, for those of us who are catching up, can sort of have a conversation around some of those key texts. And I do hope that everyone will join the DEFA Film Archive for their final event on April 8th. And you register in advance and you can watch the films then in advance of the conversation. And it really is a fantastic program. Kevina, I want to congratulate you on an incredible year and incredible work, and wish you all the best for the continued work on your dissertation. And we look forward to reading that soon too, and maybe to having you back on Busch Hall.
Yeah, that'd be great. A big thank you really to, again, the whole team for putting this together, and also all the special people who were there. In the second event, we had Rosemary Pena from the Black German Heritage and Research Association as a moderator, to Sherry Hagen, Branwen Opaco, and Tiffany Florville were in a great conversation last month. And thank you to everybody who's been a part of this. Thank you for inviting me today and being interested.
Thank you so much, Kevina, and thank you everyone for tuning in to Busch Hall Conversations. Take care, everyone.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.